In U.S. elections, you really only interact with the voting system twice. First when you register, and then when you vote. But in the background, there's a huge, complicated system of integrity checks and safeguards designed to keep our elections secure. But there's always questions and conspiracy theories around just how well that system actually works.
Massive fraud all over the place.
Because election fraud does happen.
Absentee ballots were tampered with. There could end up being a new election.
So how are the experts so sure that it's rare? I went to Charleston, South Carolina to see for myself how their system works.
Real ballot
right here. Which was pretty exciting for an election nerd like me. Bag of ballots. So far, so good. This is the fun part?
This is the fun part, because people don't see it.
And while I was there, they actually found potential voter fraud. It's possible that this is evidence of a crime in this envelope.
Yep.
Here's how the system works and how we know voter fraud is so rare. Let's start way at the beginning. You can't vote if you're not registered. You sign an oath attesting that you're a citizen and qualified to vote. If you lie, that's a felony. Your information goes into your state's voter roll and then it's checked regularly against lots of other databases like state death records or even Social Security, and of course the DMV. The tricky part is when people move.
They go to their new DMV and get a license usually, but they don't call their election officials. And so keeping up with this mobility is one of the primary challenges for election officials.
But this is where I gotta pause and add a giant asterisk for a lot of what you're gonna see in this video. Every state, and sometimes even every county, has different rules. But the principles behind these safeguards are universal. These states share information in a joint database called ERIC. The other states do their own checks.
And ERIC enables the states to identify if they have any potential double voters.
Now, there are many ways to vote, but let's start by looking at in-person voting. The first step is checking in. Here in South Carolina, you need to show photo ID, and they scan it, just like in many other states. But everywhere, you verify your address, and then you sign an oath affirming that you haven't already voted, since that's a felony. This device is called an electronic poll book. It pulls live data from the voter rolls and indicates whether you're registered, if you're in the right place, if you've already been issued a mail ballot, or if you already voted. The clerk in charge of this polling place showed me her voter registration file as an example.
Not only am I in the wrong poll, it tells me I've already voted.
So you already voted in this election?
I did. It's not going to let me issue a standard ballot.
Most people get checked in on this type of live updating electronic poll book. It prints out a barcode for the voting machine, or as this model is called, a ballot marking device. That ballot information is kept on a thumb drive in here.
It's not tabulating anything. All it has on it is the ability, when you put a barcode in here, to say, oh, I need precinct 6, Republican, and it brings it on the screen.
On the screen are the names of the candidates for voters to select and then review, and they can even edit their choices if necessary. If somebody were to infiltrate this, all they would be able to do would be to put new names of new candidates.
Absolutely. And
but
just
not votes.
Exactly. And just this
candidate
machine.
names, and just one machine.
It stands alone. It's not connected to anything at all.
Many Americans vote this way, although most still use a pen to fill out a paper ballot. This machine prints one out that you can look at to make sure that it correctly marked down the candidates that you picked. No funny business. In every state except Louisiana, there is a readable paper trail just like this recording your vote. You then put your paper ballot into this machine called a ballot tabulator. At the beginning of the day, the clerk asked the very first voter to verify that the ballot bin was empty before he cast his vote. Then she locked it up. No ballot stuffing. Throughout the day, they check that the number of ballots given out on the poll books matches the number of ballots counted in the machine. And those results are recorded on a thumb drive.
It's a simple thumb drive. It's not connected to the internet.
I
It's
see the seal
sealed.
right here.
Yep.
The ballots get scanned and drop down into that blue bin. But this slot is for a special type of ballot, provisional ballots. There are so many conspiracy theories about ineligible voters voting. But at every polling place, if there's any question about a voter's qualifications, they can vote provisionally, and it gets checked later. I saw it in Charleston. This woman said she changed her address with the DMV, but it wasn't updated in her record on the poll book. So she filled out a paper provisional ballot, and it was put into an envelope with her information and an explanation of what happened, and they dropped it into this smaller bin. So that's two ways to cast a ballot, but millions of Americans cast their ballots by mail. That's what they're counting back at the county election headquarters. Or really, they're opening envelopes and flattening them so that they can be counted.
It's like watching paint dry because it's a slow, methodical process.
Each voter's envelope has a unique barcode and their registration information. When ballots arrive by mail, they're scanned and photographed for record-keeping purposes and to update the database that they've now voted.
If someone really wants to go spend several years in a federal or state penitentiary, one of the best ways they can do that is to foolishly try to commit mail ballot fraud. It is one of the easiest crimes to catch.
Some states, like here in South Carolina, you have to request a ballot and give an excuse to vote by mail. Other places, you don't need a reason, or they just automatically send a mail ballot to every registered voter. But in all these states, the ballots are in unique envelopes that can't be duplicated, and they're verified, usually by comparing the signature on the envelope to the signature on file. Then the ballot gets counted on this ballot scanner.
This is what has been scanned so far.
So this is 527. Do your thing.
All right.
He needs a clean scan for them to count, because if one isn't flat enough, ooh, so close. That take is no good and not saved. This is the part of the process where people might say, you're trying to rig this thing. I saw you run these ballots 4 times.
Yeah. But if you look here again, 527.
527. After the ballots are counted for real, they go in this blue bin, and later they check that the number in here matches the amount counted here. Oh, and by the way, everything happening in this room is under constant video surveillance. It's a lot more boring than people realize.
It's really boring. It's really boring. And I want it to be boring.
Yeah. Back at the middle school gym, when in-person voting ends at 7 p.m., the next big phase of the election process is just beginning. The clerk prints out a paper copy of the results from the tabulator, removes the thumb drive and the ballots, and locks it up so it can't be reopened or turned back on.
Our voters checked in is 616.
They reconcile that the number of ballots given out matches the number counted by the tabulator, plus the provisional ballots. Those get sealed up and put into the blue ballot bin. And she, and every clerk from each polling place in the county, drives those boxes back to the county election headquarters. Why should the public at large trust an individual person with all those ballots?
That blue ballot bin has a tracker on it.
It's tracked.
Yes.
No funny business.
No, I'm not stopping at Waffle House.
That box gets unloaded and stored here with all the other ballots from the other precincts. And the thumb drives get downloaded and verified.
Public count, 790.
Okay, big precinct.
790.
And then uploaded via an encrypted thumb drive to an encrypted computer to the state system. And boom, the election results are now public for the world to see. That's awesome.
There it is.
This is the part of the night when the media usually projects winners and losers, but the election process really isn't over. He has more work to do tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the hand count audit process for Charleston County.
This is a crucial part of the process, where the State Election Commission randomly picks a few races and precincts where the ballots will be verified by hand.
And that's how we know that our machines are counting accurately. We don't trust them completely without checking them. We check them through the audits.
Total votes cast from the hand count audit is
105.
and the total votes cast from the results tape is 105.
It's open to the public, but I was the only one who showed up.
For all those conspiracy theorists that say elections are being stolen, they rarely actually show up to watch the audit conducted.
All 50 states do some form of a post-election audit. At this point, the results are still unofficial because not every vote has been counted.
People always ask us, why does it show that you're not 100% reporting?
Well, look, they're
Right here. They're right here.
Officials investigate whether these voters are eligible to cast a ballot. Did the address really change? They check with the DMV. Did they really not get that mail-in ballot? They double-check the system. You remember that fraudulent ballot from earlier? When this person checked in, the poll book showed that they already voted early, so it couldn't issue a regular ballot. So they filled out a provisional ballot and swore an oath claiming that they didn't already vote. Okay, and what did the double check today turn up?
They voted early.
Yeah.
Yeah, we confirmed the location they voted early, their signature matches.
But the election workers here are not actually the ones who decide whether or not to count this vote. That's the Board of Canvassers, and they hold a public meeting. Voters can come in and make their case for why their ballot should count.
I think it's a DMV problem.
Officials then called the DMV and confirmed that, yes, he was registered. and the board decided to count his vote. They made a decision for all the provisional ballots. Some were accepted,
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
and some were not.
These 3 voters cast a ballot early, and they showed up on election day,
Wanting to vote
wanted
again.
to vote again.
We've had this situation before where we've had like an elderly voter who didn't remember that they had
That's most
voted.
often what it is.
So are we referring these 3? This last?
We're required to.
All right, all in favor of not counting these ballots, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Ballots will not be counted.
This is the system working. Any disputed voters from Election Day had a chance to prove that they were qualified, and anyone who tried to vote twice was stopped by the system, and they might even be charged with a crime.
This process is not us trying to find fraud. It's us following procedures that prevent people from committing a felony.
This system is why voter fraud in the US is so rare. It would be nearly impossible to pull off at scale. To actually change the outcome of an election, you'd need to find vulnerabilities hundreds or thousands of times. And you'd have 50 different places with their own unique systems that you need to crack. And even if part of the system did fail, there are checks on it. The overseeing board can call for investigations into anything suspicious. Candidates can contest elections in court if they think the system failed.
Will there be some human error? Yes. The whole process is built with the idea that there might be human error. And that's why there's so many checks and balances and redundancies and transparencies built in the process. The real vulnerable point in our system isn't our voter lists. It isn't our voting machines. It's our own minds. It's how easy that we as Americans, particularly if our candidate has lost, can be led to believe that our system is not trustworthy when it's more trustworthy than it's ever been.